Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Rago.
I'm Ewan.
And today we're going to do something kind of new for the channel. We're going to do a versus video, but get a little dialogue going. And we were going to talk about big air versus freestyle, and we're going to hit on like the mindset, the culture, and some of the gear picks. And Ewan here, I'm sure you all know, is one of the top riders in both of those disciplines. So I figured, why not pick his brain on it and see what his thoughts are.
Sounds good, yeah.
So getting into it, I guess we can start with maybe what the viewers are more interested in, which might be the gear picks. And how do you pick your gear when you're going between the two disciplines? Like, what do you use for, say, your big air setup?
Yeah, I mean, through my first years of my career and kiting and all that, I just use the same gear for both.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, I've been riding Nash and the Torch since about 2008. So, yeah, for forever I just ride a Torch for the same thing. I'd ride one board, one kite, and just use that for both. And then probably like 5 years ago, the switch kind of went from people figuring out that sea kites weren't the best thing all the time for big air.
Mm-hmm.
For sure there's times when a sea kite's amazing for big air, but in most conditions a bridled kite is just gonna give you that extra height. They're more powerful. Like, for example, in the Nash range, a 9 meter pivot has just got so much more power than a 9 meter Torch. You'd have to ride, to get this similar power, you'd be on an 11 Torch to a 9 pivot pretty much.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then you can't even really do big air on an 11 meter kite, just like proper loops and all that don't
Sure.
work. So yeah, until about 2 years ago, I just stuck to the Torch for big air, and that was it. It was just like boots, sea kite, that's what I want to ride for big air, that's what I always want to ride,
Yeah.
same board, all that. And then I went to Cape Town, and all of a sudden, I go there expecting all this epic big air sessions, and everyone's kind of already made the switch to SLE kites and bow kites and all that kind of stuff. And I'd be on my 9 Torch just every day, not powered enough. And everyone else was on like a 9 meter pivot or a 9 meter from whatever their brand is with bridles, and super powered and just going real big, and I'd just be slogging it out on boots and a 9 meter Torch, just waiting for like 40 knots, which only really happens like twice a month there.
Okay.
It's not like always 40 knots like you'd think. It's like most days are 25, 30 knots, like super strong, still a bit much for freestyle, but for big air, it's not quite enough for a sea kite. So then after that, I decided, all right, if I'm gonna want to kind of practice this a bit more and have a wider range of conditions, I'm gonna get myself a 9 meter pivot. And then from then on, I basically have just ridden the pivot and a bit of the dash as well, which is a good in between kite,
the crossover kite,
which feels a bit more natural to me because it's got static bridle, kind of like a bit more of a sea kite feel and a more aggressive pull, which I feel a bit more at home with. But really with the pivot, like you always go bigger, it's more powerful. It's just a 9 meter pivot. As soon as it hits too much to unhook, 25 knots, it's like you're on with a 9 pivot doing proper kite loops and everything. So
is 9 your favorite size for looping?
Yeah, 9, probably, 9 meter or even an 8 meter in the pivot. In the Torch and the dash, the 8 meter is a little bit small, just because they're a slightly less powerful kite and you get dropped. It kind of doesn't give you that. An 8 meter Torch or even a 7 doesn't really give enough lift when you're coming in for a landing. A pivot's a lot liftier kite, so
I heard some of you guys talking about that yesterday, where nobody likes to really like go smaller than 8 for big air, because you get caught easier. Yeah,
on the Torch, like the 9's as small as I'll go. I'll never ride an 8 meter.
Okay.
Just come in too hot. But you can hold a 9 meter Torch to 50 knots, like kind of no worries. A 9 meter pivot, you're like max at 35, 40.
Okay.
Whereas a 9 meter Torch, you can just keep holding it. But yeah, I pretty much only ride a 9 meter for big air.
Do you change up your board setup at all?
Yeah.
With that 9?
So now, beforehand, I'd always ride a 142 board for everything, and then I figured, especially now that I ride foot straps for big air, which is another big change that happened. I kind of had a few close calls and boots getting dropped out of the sky.
For sure.
Kind of wanting, and then I. In King of the Air last year, rode foot straps just because everyone was doing it, and I was thinking, it's a lot easier for sure. Like all the tricks are easier in foot straps, and again with bridled kites, they're just way easier.
Yeah, it's like completely different sport, right?
Yeah, like my first big air session on a pivot in Cape Town on a torch, and boots, you have to make sure everything's perfect.
Yep.
It's like so aggressive. You have to do everything perfectly. I couldn't believe on the pivot I went out and just like did all my tricks straight up, learnt tricks, did new grabs. I was like, this is just, it's like a whole new
It's kind of nice being flexible in the straps, right?
And it's like to a point you kind of want to hold to that boots and core sea kite, but then at some point you just got to let it go for the benefits of your riding, going to bridle kites and foot straps and big air. You just so much better. So I'd always ride a 142 on boots because that's what I was used to. And now I've got a pro model board with NASA Traverse, and we kind of designed it as an all-round board, but I wanted to have an all-round board, but within the sizes, kind of more dedicated to different things. So now I pretty much just ride a 138 for big air.
Nice.
And ride that in foot straps, and then for freestyle or park, I'm pretty much on the 152. So it's like a huge,
it's a big difference.
Big difference, which feels at first I always thought I want to ride similar gear just so I'm used to it. But really, like big air to park and freestyle, it's like not even the same sport.
It's kind of not actually.
It's like one is like paragliding and one's like skateboarding kind of thing.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
It's like not the same at all, so it doesn't actually feel that different to me trying to switch. It's not like I need to get used to it or anything. It's so different that you don't need to get used to it. It's just like switching mindset to another sport. It's like, honestly, like the difference between big air and park riding, like I feel just as big a change from big air to park as I do like park to going for a surf. Like it's like not.
Yeah, I feel that actually.
I don't
get
even
that.
need to switch my mindset. It's like just doing a different sport.
Yeah, I get that completely.
Yeah, I mean for freestyle I like the big air for nice landings. Just I think the way it looks is better, but then for big air you just need a small board to hold down the power.
Totally, yeah, because you guys are riding lit on 9s all
Yeah.
the time. Big board, you just be like plowing through. And...
Yeah, I've tried like finless on the 152 for big air and boots before, and it just doesn't work. Like you just, by the time you're going that fast, and it's usually choppy. Like maybe if it was perfect flat water and there was a kicker like Cape Town, you could maybe ride a bigger board. But most of the time it's gusty, choppy, like hard to get a good takeoff, and then you just need to be able to hold as much power as possible.
So hey man, I appreciate the interview. I hope you guys found some useful nuggets of information out of that, whatever your discipline is. And if you found the video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll catch you next time.
See you later.